Hey, I know it's been a while since I've included you on a walk, but tonight as I'm walking, I'm just feeling a lot of gratitude. And in particular, I've been thinking a lot about the day I surrendered my life to Jesus Christ. And I'd like to tell you about that. You see, my family didn't grow up in church. And when we go, we didn't like it. Didn't understand it, felt odd. So we begged our parents not to take us. But my grandmother was very devout, and she would come to visit us in central Ohio. And when she was there on Sundays, she'd go out and she'd shop for churches. And one particular Sunday, she came back and said, listen, I think I found a church y'all would like. There's a young preacher there. He likes to tell stories. He's funny. He's relatable. Maybe you'd like it. Well, my family decided to go the next Sunday, and everything she said was true. This guy was just very real. And for the first time in my life, I went to church and I felt like, oh, I get it. There's a God in heaven who loves me, that he sent his son to die for me, that the Bible's his word. And I loved learning about the stories because he told them in such a fresh and relatable way. And he always talked about this experience of being saved, becoming a Christian, surrendering to Jesus Christ. And I didn't know what that meant, but what I did know is the people I'd met in this church, I wanted whatever they had because they were different. They were distinctively different and in a compelling, loving kind of way different. And I can remember on one Sunday after church, on the drive home, in our big old station wagon, no seatbelts in the back, and I leaned forward at an intersection. I can remember the intersection to this day. And I asked my mom and dad, I said, Mom, Dad, what's it mean to be saved? And they tried to explain, but it's not like they had just a ton of church under their belt themselves. And I remember falling back into the seat and just thinking, if my mom and dad can't tell me how to be saved, how to become a Christian, then how am I ever going to know? And I went home that afternoon, actually laid down on my bed and I cried. And I told God that. I said, God, I want to become a Christian, but I don't know how. And I don't know how I'll ever learn if nobody can tell me. So we had Sunday night church, and that evening we went back. And I kid you not, the minister gets up in the pulpit and he says, you know, tonight, I'd just like to explain to you how to become a Christian. And everything he said made incredible sense. Christ coming to die for me, wanting a relationship with me, that if I surrendered to him as my forgiver and my leader, that he'd come into my life and change me from the inside out. So at the end of that message, he did a come to the front invitation to be saved. And I had my best friend with me, Bill Burge. I looked at him, I said, move, because he was on the end of the aisle. And I walked up front and I prayed a simple prayer, just, God, there's not a lot about this I understand, but this much I do. You must love me pretty incredibly to die for me. And I want what Jesus did on the cross to be applied to my life. So come into my heart, make me a new person. I confess I'm a sinner. Help me to understand it more. That's what I prayed. And you know, in the 50 plus years since I prayed that prayer, I have never doubted the reality of my conversion experience, that Jesus Christ did enter my life at that time. Because one of the first evidences of Christ's presence is a change in our desire. We find ourselves wanting things we never wanted before. We find ourselves wanting to talk to God in prayer. We find ourselves wanting to understand his word, wanting to be around other Christians. And so all these desires begin to well up in my heart. And I can tell you this, after all these years, they are undiminished. They've not gone away. If anything, they've only gotten stronger. Because the more my life is pressed into Jesus Christ, the more satisfied my life is. My hope and my prayer for you is that you find the source of life itself. God bless you. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.